Allow me to introduce myself. I am Vidanshman from Venton. Today we're going to be covering a topic related to one of the most famous men in the world, Mark Zuckerberg. Today we're going to talk about Meta, rise of Mark Zuckerberg, and his downfall. So let's begin, and you're watching Venton. The early days of Mark Zuckerberg. A friend who wasn't perfect but well meaning. Early on, Mark actually did intend to make it simple. His platform was meant to enable people to share, communicate, not intrude on their privacy. Yes, there were a few initial hiccups, a few bugs, and privacy related ones. But Mark appeared to be genuinely interested in addressing them. He listened to his users, he accepted their errors, he made the appropriate statements. People trusted him. They trusted that he wasn't out to exploit them, at least not yet. But along with Mark's platform, the pressure to make it profitable increased. The investors began making more noise. The board members demanded quicker returns. The priorities changed from making customers happy to making shareholders happy. And that's where it all started to get fuzzy. Mark had an option, and eventually he made some really bad choices. Part 2, The Shift. The moment money took precedence over security, somewhere along the way, Mark made a transition, a gradual but unmistakable one. It wasn't like a switch being flipped, it was more of fade into the background, where the initial values of bridging into people began to take a backseat to something else. It began with information. Mark started gathering more of it, more knowledge, more analysis, more data on what people actually wanted, how they acted, what motivated them. It wasn't about linking people anymore. It was about knowing them really well. And here is where things began to fall apart. Mark understood that the greater number of people who shared, the more useful their information was. This information could be sold, traded with, used to target certain behaviors, opinions, and even emotions. And it wasn't simply a matter of selling ads. To generate revenue, he could envision the grand scheme. He could change things. He could alter elections. He could also alter entire cultures. He was a master of his domain. But he didn't stop there. As time went on, the more pressure he was under to expand, to be the largest platform in the world. The more Mark's priorities moved away from security and privacy, and to get the growth and profit, begin to see his users not as friends but as products. Part 3, The Data Wars. Mark's blind spot on privacy. Mark began striking deals with third party firms that wanted to have access to your information. They weren't merely selling advertisements, they wanted to sway you, manipulate you. They wanted to understand what got you moving, what you enjoyed, who you were, what you feared. And Mark, all through NSA in his billionaire tech typhoon persona, let them. He sold your information without flinching. He opened doors to privacy breaches, knowing that more data could be gathered, the more successful his platform would be. Who was concerned with a few upset viewers? They'd get past it. This was greater than the tiny fissures that began small privacy breaches. The elect activities became full fledged scandals. But Mark didn't relent. Rather, he doubled down. His message was too vital, too powerful. Okay, there were some demonstrations, some negative publicity, but it didn't make a difference. Mark is now at a point where money and influence were more paramount than fundamental values he used to fight for. Part 4. The Misinformation Era. The price of growth. Then next crisis hit misinformation. By this point, Mark had grown so large that he could no longer keep the torrent of information on his site in check. But here's the twist. He didn't care too. Why? Because the mayhem kept people hooked. The more polarized, the more sensational. The more people forwarded, commented on, and fought about, strife was the new currency, and it paid. It generated revenue. Mark, who had once been interested in bridging people together, was now labeling dissemination of rumors, of hate, of conspiracy, and he didn't intervene. Why should he? The site was expanding, the users was multiplying, and ad revenue, it was sky high. He might have done something. He might have intercepted to stop proliferation of false news, to defend democracy, to defend his users. But what would have damaged his numbers? That would have damaged the business. And by then, Mark was only about a business. Part 5. The Final Trick. How Mark became a corporate behemoth, and as Mark's empire grew, so did sophistication of his platform and along it. The number of entities he had to answer, investors, board members, shareholders, they all wanted a piece. They wanted returns. Mark's platform was no longer a tool for bringing people together. It was a corporation, a money maker. He had promised his users all along about their information that would be protected, that their messages wouldn't be read, and that their private information wouldn't be given out without their permission. But over time, those promises were kept vague, hollow, as long as the information was still coming in and as long as it made the company wealthier. Who cared if privacy was breached? Who cared about trust when you were racking in billions? 6. A different Mark. The Mark you knew wasn't the same anymore. He had turned into a corporate machine. Mark is now at the apex of his empire, a technology built giant, backed by billions of users and an ocean of information. But he doesn't care about those users. Not anymore. He doesn't care about privacy, security, or connection. He's a businessman, plain and simple. And that means profit, growth, power. Mark's descent from idealistic young businessman who had sought to unite the world to the manipulative corporate behemoth he has become did not occur overnight. It was gradual, incremental creep toward money and power. The more power he attained, the more he was willingly to do away with what originally mattered. The very thing that made Facebook so great, the feeling of connection, was traded for advertising revenues and international reach. And the worst part, most of us didn't even realize it yet. We still kept using his platform. We still gave him his data. Still let him control the narrative because we're addicted. And Mark? He knows it. He's not here to fix the world anymore. He's here to own it as a true businessman.